It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Rico Brogna, Losers Edition, because for the very first time in 2025, the New York Mets have lost back-to-back games. For just the second time in 2025, the New York Mets lose a series, losing 2 out of 3 to the Minnesota Twins. We covered Game 1 in episode 462 of the Rico Brogna. We covered Game 2 in episode 463 of the Rico Brogna. We've been giving you a lot of Ricos. So today we will cover the Game 3 loss. We will cover the series recap edition with all the bells and whistles, including your Rico star of the series. We'll look ahead to the St. Louis series and obviously discussions around where the New York Mets are now as they have suffered their first losing streak of the season. This one, the finale against Minnesota, this may surprise you when I say this. This loss was actually right out of 2024. In terms of, because I think when you think back to last year, not just the good times, but even the frustrating losses, the Mets had plenty of frustrating losses. But one thing they did throughout the season, and this is a compliment, and they were able to do it in the finale of this series, is fight back. They did show that ability to fight back even in games that feel like lost causes. And this game, let's be perfectly honest, felt like a lost cause. I said this on the air at about 2:30. Actually, it was right at the top of the show, 2 o'clock, because we were on the air during the game. I said, guys, I'll explain more later. This feels like a loss. And at the time, it was a 0-0 game. Now, why did I feel that way? I don't know if it was the way they lost Game 2, the way the offense has still not clicked. I don't know if it was the fact that it was an opener situation, so Hoff finally got his wish. He always says the Mets use openers. They don't. But in this case, they did. Huascar Brazoban right into Justin Hagenman. But there was a vibe I had where this was going to be a loss. I could picture the Rico we're doing right now. A series loss for the first time since the opening series against the Astros. And everything about this game in the first 5.5, 6, 7 innings felt like that. Go to the second inning. Top of the second inning, Jesse Winker in the lineup, doubles on a sharp line drive into right field. They're all set up with a runner on second, nobody out. Winker in the cleanup spot in this game. And Brandon Nimmo, who has done basically dick this season, bloops a little fly ball into left field. And as that ball lands, I'm not on the air at this point, so I'm sitting next to Tiki Barber. I say, hold him, hold him. And yet, for whatever reason, Winker gets sent from third base with nobody out in the top of the second inning. And it wasn't even going to take a perfect throw by Harrison Bader to throw Jesse Winker out. And so he's out, but then you've got the intricacies of the fact that Winker actually slid past the catcher's tag. And then when he fights back to come back to home plate, he's clearly out. But wait a second. If you look at the replay, it appears that Winker may have, and that's the key phrase here, may have slightly touched home plate before he missed it, if you will. But I get why Mendy didn't challenge it, because it's the top of the second inning. It's a 0-0 game. You still have a runner on second and one out. And the thing about challenges, and we certainly learned this as the game went on, you better be right. Because you could look at that challenge and say, come on, Ev, it's a big deal. It's a 1-0 game, top of the second inning. But if you get it wrong, you put yourself in a handicap for the rest of the game, because now you can't challenge. And for those that watch this game or listen to this game or know what the hell happened in this game, you'll know that I'm alluding to what would then happen later. So am I mad at Mendy for not challenging in the second inning? No, I get it. I'm more mad at the send. It was a garbage send. If you don't do that, you're set up with first and third, nobody out for Luisangel Acuna. There is a very good chance you're going to get that run home. And instead, because Winker's thrown out, Acuna strikes out, Taylor lines out, inning over. And that was your first telltale sign that this wasn't going to go well. Now, as far as the pitching is concerned, Huascar Brazoban was fine. He issues that walk to start the second inning, and then immediately we see Justin Hagenman, who pitched well. He really did. We went through his numbers the other day on the Rico for what he's done in the minor leagues. He was not effective in the minor leagues, but one thing we've learned is that doesn't mean he's going to struggle in this one little brief cameo that he gets at the major league level. Justin Hagenman did a fine job. The offense did not. And that includes everybody. That includes Juan Soto. Actually, it doesn't include everybody. It doesn't include Pete Alonso, who is our god right now. You knew in a game like this, if you could hold the Twins to 3 or 4 runs when you're using an opener and you're using your bullpen, score runs, you'll win the game. If you can hold Minnesota to 3 or 4, you consider that a victory. And to the first 4 innings of this game, they did just that. They did a marvelous job. But yet the Mets continued the trend of 2025 and to a degree the trend of 2024, where they get a golden opportunities and they can't come through. And the one that's going to stick with us is the Juan Soto play. You've got bases loaded, 1 out. You have a slumping Juan Soto facing the lefty. So you actually have the lefty-lefty matchup where Soto has fared better against lefties in the early going. And it's a spot where they're going to attack Juan Soto because there's nowhere to put him. And Juan Soto went right after the first pitch. It was a sinker, and he just bounces it to second base for the relatively easy and sort of obscure 4-4-3 double play. And that is a moment, I like to call it a boo-worthy moment. If that was at Citi Field, Juan Soto would have heard his first boos as a New York Met. And I talk about this. I talk about this on the air. I talk about it here. I'm not endorsing that. I'm not a booer, but I'm an observer. I'm a Met fan. I've seen guys get booed. I've seen Jeremy Burnitz get booed, to Carlos Beltran get booed, to Roger Cedeno, to you name the guy. It's not new. Francisco Lindor. So I don't say it as if I want it to happen. I say it as a Met fan, right? As someone who kind of pictures what this would sound like at Citi Field. But you go to the bottom of the 5th inning, and you have the Mets making a decision that turned out to absolutely kill them. And that is the Willie Castro double, in which it is a very bang-bang play at second base, but the Mets decide to challenge it. And because they challenge it and they fail, for the rest of this game, bottom of the 5th inning on, you do not have a challenge. Jose Butto comes in not the easiest spot in the world, runner on third base, less than 2 outs. And as Butto has done so far this season, we don't love Big Butto. We cannot lie. Gives up the base hit to Harrison Bader, who is an absolute killer in this series. An absolute killer. Are we surprised? No, you can't be. This is what former Mets do. And then after Luisangel Acuna makes a sparkling defensive play, robbing Julian of a base hit, you have that moment, the 2 out. Butto is a strike away from getting through this. He's ahead 1-2, and he throws a 4-seam fastball that Byron Buxton hits the crap out of. And it becomes a 2-0 game. And if that's not bad enough, besides the offense looking limp, you then have your situation in the 6th inning. That's all gets started because of Jose Butto issuing a 1-out walk to Ryan Jeffers. And he does it on 4 pitches that are not close. That's what allowed the bang-bang nature of the ground ball to first base to come back and kill him. That is the runner on second, 2 out, Willie Castro, ground ball to first. Pete, who's played beautiful defensively, throws it to Butto, who's in time for the out, inning over. Oh, but wait, Hunter Wentelstadt can't see. And what I'm frustrated about is not at Mendy, because, again, we talk about the nature of the challenge. You want to get it right, but there's a pressure to get it right, because if you don't, you're left naked like the Mets were in the bottom of the 6th inning where you can't issue a challenge. But what are you supposed to do? Not challenge a play in which you're getting word back in the locker room is a play that's going to go your way, and the Mets have mostly been successful with challenges. So I'm not frustrated with Mendy, and I'm not even frustrated with Butto, because I don't think his argument, which lasted 1.01 seconds, was going to make a hill of beans on Jeffers scoring from second. He was scoring anyway. This is not David Cone. That happened with us. For those that remember, this is early in my fandom, but David Cone had an incident where he was arguing and guys kept scoring. It was embarrassing. This isn't Chuck Knobloch, which happened in 1998 with the Yankees in the ALCS against Cleveland. It's nothing like that. I think Buteau spent a second arguing an absolutely egregious call. And even if he spun immediately to throw home, it was not going to make the difference. So my anger is at the incompetent umpiring that we have in Major League Baseball. It's great that we have the challenge system, but I also don't want to see BS calls. And that was a BS call. It sucked. It's unfortunate, and it turned out to be the freaking difference in this game. With that said, that's not the excuse, because ultimately, when the Mets then out of absolute nowhere show fight in the 8th inning, and they did show fight. Lindor with the leadoff hit. Juan Soto struck out. I'll spend some time on him in a few minutes. Then you get Pete and Winker hitting the back-to-back doubles. You get Nimmo doing nothing as always, aggressively swinging at the first pitch. I'll spend some time on that too. And then you've got Luisangel Acuna, to his credit, coming through with that big RBI single to tie the game up and then steal second base. And then unfortunately, Tyrone Taylor gets robbed by guess who? Harrison Bader. So the Mets showed great fight. That was awesome. That reminds you of 2024 because they did that a lot. But you lose the game when Soto again does nothing in the 9th inning after a Lindor hit. And when the Mets are set up in the 10th the way everyone is with the dopey Manfred run, Alonso is pitched around, which why wouldn't you at that point? And the Mets again can't do anything with a golden opportunity. Jesse Winker hit one right on the screws, attacking the first pitch. Unfortunately, it was a bang, easy 4-6-3 double play. And then Nimmo does the same thing, attacking the first pitch, and he pops up meekly. First and second, nobody out, you have to score. And once you don't, let's be honest, the game's effectively over. Holding them in the bottom of the 10th inning is very, very unlikely. Now, let me address a couple of things before we get to Soto, before we get to Nimmo. I have no issue with Diaz coming in to pitch the 9th inning. I actually liked it. When you think about who Diaz is coming in to face, it's not just 9, 1, and 2 of the batting order. It's Harrison Bader, who's Joe DiMaggio when he faces the Mets, followed by the top of the order. I want to extend the game. I want to keep the game going. I'm not overthinking the 10th inning. I'm merely saying these are their better hitters, their best hitters, if you will. Let me use, as much as some of you may disagree, my best reliever. So no problem with Diaz coming in to pitch the 9th inning. And look, it was another incredibly shocking moment when Diaz walks Bader, tries to pick him off numerous times, and then somehow Torrens throws out Bader at second. We have seen Edwin Diaz, and I give him very little credit, but I guess some. We've seen it happen twice now, where Diaz, who used to get run on all the time, has now not only had guys try to run on him, but has been thrown out. And that was obviously a huge, huge play by Torrens. But to Diaz's credit, he strikes out Julian. He strikes out Buxton. We're off to extra innings. The Reed Garrett situation, look, he gave up a single. The circumstances of tie game, bottom of the 10th, runner on second, that's on the offense. You have to score a run there. You have to with these dopey rules. And once they didn't, the odds were very low that this game was going to extend. Let me get to Juan Soto. Am I worried about Juan Soto? I'm not worried. Juan Soto is a tremendous baseball player who's gone through slumps just like this. The difference is, and there is a difference, he's going through the slump to begin a career after signing a $765 million contract with a new team. But Juan Soto had slumps like this with the Yankees last year. It's true. Should I find the exact 18-game sample size? I guess I can for the next Rico. But Yankee fans will tell you, he went through a stretch in August and even parts of September. He didn't hit. But like always the case in baseball, it's more obvious when it starts the season. Same with the good. Because when you go to Citi Field on Thursday night and you look at the scoreboard, you're going to see 231 for Juan Soto. And I guarantee there will be more than a few people that will look at that number and say, $745 million for this crap? You have a slump like that in June, it's not as noticeable. It's also frustrating because the Mets aren't hitting, and he's the face of it. He has rarely come through with big hits. He only has one hit with runners in scoring position. He came up in an incredible opportunity in game 3 of this series. Bases loaded, one out, and he bounces into a double play. He's done nothing. And there's no need to defend it because there's no defending. He hasn't hit. Now, my second step is I'm not worried. I think Juan Soto is going to be fine. But I do warn you that there are going to be Met fans over the weekend who are not going to be as patient as me and maybe a lot of people listening. And I don't know how he responds to that. Juan Soto, I don't think has ever been booed in his home ballpark. Never happened with the Yankees. I don't even think it happened with the Padres, where he did too get off to a bad start. He struggled for a while in San Diego. I am keeping my fingers crossed that that's not going to be the case. He is out of whack right now. He's swinging at pitches out of the strike zone. And, we talk about him being pitched differently or Juan Soto taking a walk. You know what? In the ninth inning with a runner on first and 2 outs and Alonso on deck, I sat there hoping he walked. Didn't we all? Fine Juan. Draw walk and bring up the one guy on this team who has hit his weight, and that's Pete Alonso. And he didn't do it. So it is frustrating. It sucks, but I'm not worried. Not worried about Lindor either. I ripped him a new one on our last Rico. I just called him out, and Francisco Lindor agreed because he said, it's on me. He has said that a lot in his Met career. I appreciate it. I think it's always the right thing to say. It's on me. I need to be better. And right now, it's on a lot of people. It's on a lot of people not named Pete Alonso. Now, let me get to Brandon Nimmo. Huff, I want you to answer this because I actually agree with something Brandon Nimmo said in the postgame. And you have brought this up a lot, so you should respond. And that is, hey, he is swinging at the first pitch all the time. And Brandon was asked about it after the game, and he took onus on the last one. He's like, look, that one called, I shouldn't have done it. Right? It was out of the strike zone on me. But he said, my chase rate is down. I'm swinging at pitches that are in the strike zone. I just haven't done the damage that I hope. And I looked back to kind of fact check this. He's right. So I ask you, what do you want him or anyone else to do when they're getting a pitch in the zone? It happens to be the first pitch. They're attacking it. It's a strike. If they don't swing at it, they're behind 0-1. So aren't you more mad that you're not coming through versus swinging at the first pitch?
It just feels like there's been certain times where pitchers have been on the ropes and they've put themselves in spots where, ooh, Nimmo, here's a juicy spot for you. This guy just walked back-to-back players. Take a couple pitches. Make him force you to work the count a little bit. Get to that 0-2 pitch. Listen, if he throws the first 2 pitches over the plate and you're at 0-2, I know this is disadvantage, but you're a professional hitter. You should be able to find a way to recover, especially a guy who's not locating so well.
But the percentages tell you if you get the first pitch and it's a strike and you swing, the percentages of you coming through are a lot higher than if you're behind in the count 0-2. And Nimmo's right. Most of the time he is swinging at the first pitch. They're pitches he should hit.
Yeah, well, the other problem is that he's out of whack. I mean, his body is just completely off. I mean, he can tell you as much as possible that, hey, dude, this was a perfect pitch. I should have squared it up, and he didn't. But then that's the issue, is you're not squaring up the ball because something is either physically wrong or mentally you're just not in it right now. I think it's more the physical.
Well, it may be physical because he didn't hit in July, August, and September. And so it's kind of similar to Brett Beatty when we have criticized Beatty or been worried about Beatty, and Beatty says, it's 27 at-bats. It's not 27 at-bats. It's your entire career. So in the case of Nimmo, when we talk about our worry for him, I think it is absolutely fair to bring up July and August and September. I don't think that's unfair to bring up. Now, what do you do about it? That's the question. I think I would, at this point, drop him in the batting order, or it's either drop him in the batting order or the opposite, which is move him up in the batting order, get him even better pitches to hit, or even bring back on base Brandon Nimmo. Now, do I want to do that? I don't love it because I like Lindor in the leadoff spot. I do, despite his early season struggles, because Lindor, despite the struggles, is still finding a way to get on base. Once in a while, at least. It's not as bad as it was last year. We did receive an email from a guy named Ryan, and this was 3 days ago. This is not even during this game, and we'll get to more of your emails coming up in a few. And he had a very out-of-the-box suggestion that when I first read it 2 days ago, I said, nah, it's too early. And it still is too early, I admit it. But a lineup change to get certain guys going. Because right now, everyone needs to get going outside of Alonso. He's been perfect. And you're ready for this idea? It's out of the box. It may cause you to say you're nuts, but I liked it the more I think about it. And I would not be against it. Are you ready for this? Leading off Juan Soto. Going Soto 1, Alonso 2. So keep Alonso in that protection spot. And Francisco Lindor 3. Where basically Juan Soto now can go full get on base mode. You don't want to face him? Great. I'll take the leadoff man on. Okay, that's fine. I know he's not paid to be a table setter. Well, you could say Lindor's not paid to be a table setter. It's not about what you're paid to do. It's about effectiveness. And I made this point about Judge earlier this season on Evan and Tiki, why I thought him as a leadoff hitter made a lot of sense. And my point is, if you walk the leadoff hitter, and all of a sudden, to start a game, that is, and I got a runner on first, nobody out, my chances of scoring have just skyrocketed. I'll take those chances. I don't mind walks. I don't. I just said that about Soto. When he came up with a runner on first, 1 out, 9th inning, Alonso on deck, I'm like, take a freaking walk. I'll take my chances 2 on, 2 out. So it's a way to keep Soto, Lindor, and Alonso in those top 3 spots, which I lean towards remaining to do because they are ultimately my 3 best hitters, but maybe moving it around a little bit. It is early. I don't think there's a need to do it, sitting at 11-7, but I thought it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that is, like, Francisco Lindor seems to struggle no matter what in April. So you move him to 3, and then he just struggles there. And then all of a sudden, mid-May comes and he starts to click. You could bat him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't make a difference. It still feels like he's going to be the same way. And
right.
now you've moved the order up. And what does that really do for Juan Soto exactly? I mean, it's nothing more than just he's the leadoff. He leads off the game.
Here's what it does. And here's what I think it does. And this is the beauty, I guess, of leading off, is it puts into your head, just get on base. Like, Soto won't admit it, and I don't know if this is going through his head, because his comments were perfect to the New York Post. Look, if you're not going to give me a pitch to hit, I'm going to take a walk. And that should be his approach. I don't want him saying, I'm Juan Soto, I need to expand the zone. No, if they're not going to face you, take a walk. A walk is good. Walks aren't bad, especially when you got really good players behind you, or at least a really good player right now in Pete Alonso. So I think if you're leading off, the mentality changes to, I'll take a walk. A walk's actually a good thing. So that's the only thinking behind it. I remember back in the day, Bobby Valentine would use the 2-hole as a way to get a guy going. Like, if a guy is slumping, he'd move him into the 2 spot thinking they'd get better pitches to hit. I do want to make everybody smile, because I think this should make you smile. I received a very long email from Cliff. And for those new to the Rico, you'd say, who is Cliff? Maybe even if you're a diehard listener to the Rico, you're like, who is Cliff? Cliff is a gentleman who wrote us during the offseason talking about the scoops of Pete Alonso, because I'm a big scoop guy when it comes to Pete. Because I know you guys like to forget this, but half the Met fan base turned on Pete Alonso. Basically, he's a fat, doofy piece of crap who shouldn't be on the team anymore. He's not clutch. He can't play defensively. He's old. Get rid of him. Remember that? You remember when you guys were saying that? Wasn't a lot of you. It really wasn't 50%. Let's say it was 10%. So one of my defenses of Pete, besides it being a misnomer or not true that he wasn't clutch, is that he's a really good scooper. So Cliff promised us he would keep a scoop chart throughout the season. I got to read you this email because Cliff's amazing. Gentlemen, as always, much appreciation providing Mets fans such a reliably meaty and intellectually honest podcast. Thank you. 11% of the season is now in the books, and with an off day ahead, let's check in on our scoop project. Here's what I've got so far. When it comes to Pete Alonso, very tough scoops, he's 1 for 2. When it comes to medium scoops, he's 2 for 2. When it comes to easy scoops, he is 2 for 2. When it comes to pickoffs, I remember there was one that you and I were at, Hoff, he's 2 for 3. That sounds like a really good percentage. Cliff goes on to write, since some scoops are not created equal, human judgment is involved. So I've built out a video for all of 2025's scoops so you can judge my judgment. Each video is 3 minutes if you're interested. Pete scoops, and then he also included a link to opponent scoops. It's a very small sample size, but it looks to me that while Pete's got a sticky glove, his footwork leaves something to be desired. More important, other first basemen also make scoops, but Met fans don't give them a thought, much less count them. That leaves me skeptical that any gap between Pete and his peers is significant, but we will continue to track. So I don't know if you guys want, but we can put out Cliff's YouTube video for you guys to analyze the scoops. So good job, Cliff. It is a small sample size. We will definitely check it out. I love the fact that you have remained loyal to the scoopness. That's a good job by you. Connor wrote an email about Brandon Nimmo, and there are a lot of Brandon Nimmo opinions considering he's not hitting. Connor writes, I want to preface this by saying Pete was not right. I think he's talking about you, Hoff. That being said, the Nimmo struggles are real. So what's the solution? Do you move him up in the order to get back to his leadoff approach of taking pitches and getting on base? It'd be hard to drop him in the order too far because the bottom of the order isn't hitting at all either. Maybe you ride Winker at cleanup after today and then go Vientos 5, Nimmo 6, Acuna 7. Very frustrating and difficult to figure out because we need Nimmo to get back to his on-base ways. But you really can't justify batting him ahead of Lindor, Soto, and Pete. Curious to hear how you see it and what your lineup adjustments would be. I have another idea, and I don't want to say it because Pete Hoffman's going to get a big head.
Do it. Do it.
I would consider batting Nimmo 9th, and I want you to hear me out. Calm down over there. Calm down.
Where's Carlos Mendoza? Get him on the phone.
Carlos isn't going to do it. Like, I don't think he is going to do it because baseball is not just numbers. It's not just emotion. It's not just some of the simple things we're going to talk about. He's a human being. I don't know how he reacts to batting 9th, honestly. Brandon gave all the right answers in terms of playing left field and center field. He said wherever they want to play me is fine. But my early thought on why batting 9th would make sense is that it does make the bottom of your order more dangerous. He does have protection because all of a sudden Nimmo is batting in front of Francisco Lindor. Now, the negative is you're losing plate appearances by batting 9th as compared to 4th or 5th. But it serves, I think, the purpose of some of the things Connor is saying. How do you get Nimmo back to his on-base ways without moving him to the top of the order? Because I agree with Connor. Like, I don't want to mess for any lineup ideas we have. I personally don't want to screw with the three guys of Pete, Soto, and Lindor batting 1, 2, 3. However you want to line it up. By the way, that means less to me. I mentioned Soto leading off. You could take those three guys and put them however the hell you want. I really don't mind because Lindor and Soto are awesome and they will eventually get back to it. And Pete Alonso is hitting like Aaron Judge. So I'm not taking any of those guys and not having them bat in the first inning. I'm not. So I guess the thing I run into is if I'm not willing to break up the top three, I'm not putting Brandon Nimmo up there. So 9th would be an idea. So take your bows, Pete.
Thank you. I've said it the whole time. And I think this is something that I try to say is it's like a second leadoff and it gives, like you said, maybe I missed that fact, but it puts him in a spot, like you said, where he's now supported by other players that actually pitchers are scared of. And so you're going to have to be forced to pitch to Nimmo, which is something that right now, let's be serious here. I know Marte and Winker aren't giving you the best at bats, but I think that they're giving you professional bats. And then after that, like Torrens doesn't really scare many people. Taylor doesn't scare many people. So this lineup is not as scary as we'd like it to be. But Beatty and Vientos aren't scaring anybody because they're not hitting the ball. So it's Nimmo has nothing behind him.
I give Winker credit. I thought he had some really good at-bats. He went 2 for 5. He had a couple of extra base hits. And even the double play hit in the 10th inning, hit the ball 110 miles an hour. So to be fair, I want to address this, and I think emails are the good way to get to different points. So Matthew writes about the second baseman and future center fielder. Matthew writes, Evan, first want to say, love the podcast. Look forward to it probably more than I should. Well, that sounds weird, but thank you very much. I know you're definitely getting a lot of negative, so I want to shed some light on this brutal series. And that light is Luisangel Acuna. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. He's hitting, he's stealing, and despite the errors, I think he's been pretty solid in the field. Acuna sneakily has the 3rd highest batting average on this team right now. Obviously, second base is Jeff's when he comes back, but I really hope they give Acuna a shot in center field because I cannot watch Tyrone Taylor, and Jose Siri, who we're not going to see for a while anymore. Thanks, Evan, and let's go Mets. So here's what I need to figure out. Here's what we all need to figure out. I mentioned the other day on the Rico with Siri being out and Tyrone Taylor ideally being a part-time player. He was already going to be in a platoon in center field, that the Mets have to figure out other ways and other people to play center field. My idea, not an original one, I think it's obvious, is Luisangel Acuna. Brett Beatty has actually shown a pulse at the plate, had 2 more hits in the Wednesday game, the finale of this series. And remember, he did have that triple at the end of the A's series. So Beatty, small sample size, 3 for his last 5. Just saying. But I'm not trying to put Beatty on a pedestal. I'm merely saying Acuna is earning an opportunity. He's taking it at second base, but now there's a new chance in center field. So because Acuna played about 20, 25 games in the minors last year in center field, why not Acuna? And Mendy has said, I told him to be ready. But they're also floating 2 other ideas, which all get us to the same place. One is Nimmo playing center field. Now, you do that, that could mean Jesse Winker in left. It could also mean Jeff McNeil in left with Acuna at second. So the Nimmo to center field idea also opens up an opportunity for Luisangel Acuna. And then the other idea, and this is happening right now in rehab, is Jeff McNeil playing center field. If you're playing Jeff McNeil in center field, just in case, because you never know, you want to have that versatility, fine. But do we really think the Mets are better off? And we're getting to the same place in terms of who's playing, right? Because this adds up to Acuna playing more, which is Matt's point. Are we really better with Nimmo in center, McNeil in left, Acuna at second, or Nimmo in left, McNeil in center, Acuna at second, versus McNeil at second, Nimmo in left, Acuna in center? Like, all of those things get to the same place, which is Luisangel Acuna playing more often and on an everyday basis once McNeil is back. But defensively, off the top, I would think you're better off with Acuna in center. I think Jeff McNeil is a solid and fine defensive second baseman. Is he better than Acuna? I think we need to see more of Acuna to really determine that. So why are we putting multiple guys out of position? I don't understand that. Now, they haven't done it yet, so not criticizing Mendy. This all could be just for the versatility of it. But off the top, I would prefer to see Luisangel Acuna play center field more so than McNeil, and even more so than Nimmo, because Nimmo does not look great in left field. He also doesn't look, he may be healthy, he doesn't look 100%. And either way, all of this adds up to the fact that Tyrone Taylor is a valuable piece of this team, but he's hitting 163, and he should not be guaranteed every day at-bats. Kind of like last year. It'll be interesting. Mets haven't made the roster move yet, but they eventually will for Jose Siri. So it all makes sense that the reason they didn't make the move and the reason they've spent 4 days now short a guy is so that they'll be able to recall Kranick without waiting the mandatory 10 days, because even if he's not replacing Siri on the roster, because you can't have the extra pitcher, I guess if you simultaneously option Hagenman and put Siri on the IL, that would also allow you to bring back Max Kranick. That is my understanding of why the Mets are waiting. They then could bring up a position player, whether it's Ozokar or someone else, but it's temporary. Because the reality is Jeff McNeil should be back soon, and when he's back, there's no reason at this point to option Beatty or Acuna to the minor leagues. Obviously not Acuna, but even Beatty. Beatty made a really good defensive play at third base, and that also could be an option, because Starling Marte hasn't exactly hit the cover off the ball, where we could see some Beatty at third base with Vientos DHing, or Vientos not playing like we saw in the finale of this series. So I want to see Acuna in center field, but I think we all get to the same place. And the same place is Luisangel Acuna is earning at-bats and he's earning opportunities. Nicholas writes, celebration. What is the base hit celebration that they dug out this year? Last year it was clearly spank that ass. This year it seems like let's roll and lay that wood. Although sometimes it's an upward thrust, which seems aggressive if it is. What do you think, Nick? I thought they were saying F you. Like the hand motion where you go like that, like you're basically telling everybody to go F themselves. That's what I initially thought it was.
No, it's definitely not. Unfortunately, that's a little bit more like an uppercut type of feel.
Yeah.
This is like laying out the hog or something like that, like slapping the. Honestly, it feels like you're putting your junk on the table. If you know what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Putting your junk on the table.
Yeah, you're taking out your junk and you put it on the table. And that junk is another term for what?
I know what junk means.
I'm just making sure.
Thank you. Jordan writes, "Hi, Evan. Every year, the bats start slow. Juan Soto is now officially starting to bother me. He has the audacity to make comments about protection behind him. The protection behind him is carrying this team. Less complaints and more production when you come up with the bases loaded." Before I finish Jordan's email, I just think you're wrong, Jordan. I don't think he was complaining. I think he was asked a question about how and if he's pitched differently this year compared to last year, and Juan Soto made the mistake of answering it. He was not taking a shot at Pete Alonso. He was describing accurately the way he's pitched. And what's unfortunate is that Jordan is not alone. There are Met fans who took Soto's comments as an excuse. They were not an excuse at all. He is slumping right now, and it's not because they're not facing him, and it's not him making excuses. I don't know why he's slumping. Sometimes you just mechanics get out of whack. Sometimes it's as simple as Jazz Chisholm of the Yankees, the weather's cold. Now, no one wants to hear that, but Jazz said it, and then once it got warmed up, he started hitting again. Anyhow, Jordan continues, "The first pitch swinging needs to absolutely stop. Nemo and Winker go up there like they're Barry Bonds swinging at the first pitch. Crush them in the 10th after Alonso walked on 5 pitches. The offense needs to get going and get going now. The rotation is already showing signs of bending, and the bats can't get carried by the pitching anymore." I think that the pitching is never going to maintain a 2.5 ERA, but the bats shouldn't maintain scoring less than 4 runs per game. They are going to have to hit. I thought they'd break out against Minnesota. Hopefully it happens against the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, speaking of the Cardinals series, Griffin Canning is good to go. So despite forcing this bullpen day in game 3 on Wednesday, Griffin Canning is scheduled to make the start on Thursday. They're going to face Andre Pallant, a right-hander, so their stretch of facing righties continues. Same thing on Friday night with Miles Michaelis taking on David Peterson. So they don't need to add a 6th starter. In fact, according to my calculations, they don't need to add a 6th starter for another week. Because they used this here and they pushed back Canning and Peterson, Senga gets to Saturday. And then because the Mets have an off day on Thursday, Senga could come back and pitch next Friday without the Mets adding a 6th starter. So they're now away from this for a while if they want. But they're going to face Michaelis with Peterson on Friday, and then they're going to finally face a lefty. Matthew Liberatore is going to face him on Saturday with Kodai Senga on the mound. And then they're going to get Sonny Gray against Clay Holmes, the 2 former Yankees, on Sunday. So the Mets, who have never faced lefties this year, it's almost uncanny how rarely they have faced them, will finally get one coming up in the St. Louis series. But in terms of the rotation, because Canning Thursday, Peterson Friday, and then Senga Saturday with an extra day, they come back with Holmes on Sunday, and assuming they're comfortable with regular rest, Canning and Peterson could come back Tuesday and Wednesday after McGill, and they would be pitching not with an extra day, but on regular rest. And that leads right into the off day on Thursday. And then you can come back with a complete turnaround your rotation with everyone facing extra rest and not needing a 6th starter, because they would go Senga in Washington. Now we're up to April 25th. Senga, Holmes, McGill, and Canning, and then even David Peterson. So they would not need a 6th starter until April 30th. So because of the off day and because of what they did on Wednesday, which they lost the game, but it was a success. I mean, think about it. Hagenman was very good. Brazaban gave you an inning. Buteau was the only guy that really struggled. I guess Reed Garrett, but he faced one batter with a runner on second. They lost because of their offense. Their pitching got the job done. So they did survive with the bullpen day. And it makes you wonder, because we'll see where they are on April 30th. At that point, is Paul Blackburn an option? At that point, how do they feel about Brandon Sproat and Blade Tidwell? Are one of those guys an option? Obviously, Sean Manaea is not going to be an option. He's still a ways away. Frankie Montas isn't going to be an option. So as long as the Mets want, they have now bought themselves until April 30th. That's the next time they're going to need a sixth starter. Let's do the Rico star of the series. This one's easy. I mean, honestly, every time we've done this so far, I give you a couple of candidates. There is only one. Like, there's only one who is a candidate for the Rico star of the series as the Mets lose 2 out of 3 to the Minnesota Twins. So even in a losing series, we have to name a star. And that guy is Pete Alonso for the third time this season. 6 for 10. He was on base 9 times in 15 plate appearances. They didn't get him out. He had a home run through the wind the other day. He drove in a couple of runs. I mean, there's nobody close. So Pete Alonso, honestly, Huff, is there anyone else you want to nominate, or should we just get this out of the way and say it's Pete Alonso?
Hey, I elect Carlos Mendoza for actually officially anointing an opener for the first time. I'm sorry, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I mean, Oscar Brasman, you want to nominate him? Pitched twice in this series.
He did great. But you know what's more impressive that with Alonso? It's not even the RBIs. It's not even the home runs. It's the doubles. Was it 8 doubles now he has in the season? Yep. I mean, the guy is an extra base machine. It's not just a single or a home run, a strikeout or a home run, a walk or a home run. No, he's doing everything. Yeah. I love him.
His defense has been outstanding. We said this right away, so you could kind of feel it right away. His at-bats are awesome. He has a lot of 3-2 counts. He's laying off incredibly close pitches. We actually saw this in spring training. I think it was the first spring training game of the year when they were using the challenge system where you bang your head and then they look at it. And I think it was the first game I was watching. He laid off like a 2-2 pitch, or it was called a strike. He challenged it. It turned into a ball. It turned into a walk. And obviously we were all enamored by the challenge system, or at least all 12 of us who watched it. But it was also, wow, Pete Alonso is being as careful as we've ever seen. This is Pete laying off close pitches much better than we've ever seen. So you could see it in spring training. You could see it in that opening series against Houston, that his at-bats were different. And he's smoking the ball every time up. His approach at the plate is incredible. He's still hitting bombs, mixing that in there. And so we have now watched the Mets play 6 series this season. They have won 4 of them. They have lost 2 of them. And Pete Alonso has been the Rico star of the series in 3 of them, half of them. And the other 3 were all pitchers. Kodai Senga in the A series, Max Kranick in the Toronto series, and it could have been Pete in that series too, and Edwin Diaz in the opening series against Houston. So he is the only offensive player so far to take home the very prestigious honor of the Rico star of the series. But to my fellow Met fans, here's the way I would explain the way I feel right now. I am frustrated because that was a frustrating game to watch and a frustrating few games to lose. But the Mets are 11-7. They are still at the top of the National League East. And despite so many guys not hitting, and despite their struggles with runners in scoring position, they have still won more games than they've lost. Have they played lousy opponents? Sure. Not my problem. Not my problem at all. They're about to play the Cardinals. We can consider them a lousy opponent. And then 3 really, I like to say big games against the Phillies. And I will take the tomato thrown at my head for saying this. I said this a lot last year. Tiebreakers matter. So those 3 games against the Phillies, man, you want to win the division, those games matter. And I've already calculated the pitching matchups for the Philly series. I have it as McGill against Aaron Nola, Canning against Christopher Sanchez, so they'll see another lefty, and David Peterson against Zach Wheeler in the finale of that series on a Wednesday afternoon. We are still continuing a week of Ricos every night. I'm going to the Met game on Thursday and Friday. My plan, assuming we can get it off technologically, is a drive home Rico. Pete Hoffman will join me again at the game on Thursday. I was very honest with Pete because it was supposed to be me, Tiki, Tommy Lugauer, and Sean Morash. Sean had to cancel. He had a family situation. And so I was upfront with Pete. I said, Pete, I asked them, he has to back out. Do you want to come? Because I don't want you like, oh, I wasn't your first choice. I'm always honest about it. You were not. I still love you, but you were my second choice. That's not bad.
That means a lot to me, to be honest with you, because I know there's a lot of people that want to be even the third choice and I'm number 2 right now. That's pretty freaking good.
Who do you think is going to have to take more pictures at the game? Pete Hoffman or Tiki Barber?
I got to be honest. This might be me. This might be me.
This is your place.
This might be me. I was very impressed and very happy and honored. So many people came by asking for your picture and said, Hoff, we want you in it too. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I appreciate you guys. So thank you.
I'm going to keep track. I think Hoff's going to beat Tiki on Thursday. But we'll do a drive home after the game against the Cardinals on Thursday, a drive home Friday. And of course, after every series ends, we give you the series recap. And we appreciate you listening, downloading, and checking it out. Don't let your Yankee fan friends bother you too much. All right, just put it out of your mind. Yes, Juan Soto's a mess right now. Yes, Juan Soto's hitting .231. Let them tell you Ben Rice is better. That's okay. Just remember, those who laugh last laugh the loudest, the hardest. Yeah, one of those two things. Either way, thank you very much for listening and downloading Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.